Hello and welcome back to another day here at the Damage Part. Not just any day though. This isn't like those Tuesdays or like, oh God help us, Thursdays. This is a Wednesday. Big news Wednesdays with Jayar Jackson. Jayar, how's it going?
Wow, man. You know what the first thing I thought was, man, who's on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Because John is slamming them right now.
Well, Tuesdays and Thursdays don't have a regular co-host, so it's distributed amongst all of our villains. No, and it's not about them, it's about the news. They do the best they can with the news we've got. You go to war with the news you've got, not the news you want. But today we've got some news. But anyway, by the way, as we do this, I've of course got our Twitch chat up, I've got our YouTube chat up. So I've seen that Tails has been going crazy gifting subs. Tails, thank you for that. And on YouTube, welcome to all of our new members, including Michelle, another tier 3 member. Membership on YouTube at TDR is a new thing. It's only been here for 1 day. But thank you to everybody who is becoming a member. I am loving seeing the emojis now in the chat. Anyway, thank you to everybody who is watching. Please hit the like button and share the stream if you haven't already so that people know that we're live. And we will be responding to your comments and questions and concerns and all queries. Maybe I'll think of other words as we go.
Yeah, there's like a quick poll for the folks since you guys are here and we're all live. Do Americans know how to make tea is the question of the day. Because I mean, I think I can learn, I just don't like the stuff, that's all. I think we Americans, consider we're the best country in the world. We can learn to do anything. We're the shining example on the hill. Earl Grey, I think we should name it like John Smith.
That's actually my favorite tea.
A good basic American name, Robert Wilson.
Oh, tea of Robert Wilson, a nice cup. Yeah, I don't mind tea, but like for me, here's the dumbest thought process. For me, it's like tea or coffee. I choose coffee, but I don't drink just coffee. I drink coffee with a lot of milk, and tea doesn't have a lot of milk. And I know what you're probably thinking. Couldn't you just put milk into your tea? And I get that, but for some reason, no. And so I stick with the coffee. I don't know, like it just doesn't seem the same.
Yeah, John,
I don't know.
I should just drink milk. You said for some reason, no. There is a reason, it's specific because it wouldn't work.
It does work. People do it. You put cream or milk, but it just doesn't quite seem that.
I'm just riling people up at this point.
You are, but we should poll that though. Can Americans actually make a good cup of tea? Ooh, London fog, that's true. Okay, with that, we've got a lot of news to get to. And then after the show, by the way, this isn't a live thing, but it will be going up on the channel as soon as we can. An interview with Nina Turner. She's gonna be joining us. She just announced that she's running for Congress yesterday. We're gonna be one of the first interviews that she does. Very excited to find out about sort of her platform, how she's gonna be campaigning, her expectations for the race, and all of that. So it should be a lot of fun. But before we get to that, let's talk about the news.
Yes.
So Donald Trump is apparently deciding that all of the firings that he's done over the past few weeks aren't enough. He needs some more, and some of them are like sort of sequels. It's getting a little bit repetitive. Like they just pushed William Barr out a couple of days ago, and the guy that's like taking over for him, they might fire before he even really gets the job. It's amazing. Trump has been discussing sacking Jeffrey Rosen, who is set to replace AG Barr next week. But like, you get what that means. He hasn't even done it yet. He doesn't even have the job yet, and they're thinking about firing. So Rosen is supposed to replace Barr, who announced his resignation, that's how they say it publicly on Monday, as effectively a stopgap Justice Department chief until President-elect Joe Biden takes office in 8 weeks and appoints a successor. So that might not actually happen. They might replace him before he actually gets the job. This is of course the guy who's been the deputy to Barr for more than a year. So insofar as you are qualified, I guess theoretically he has some on the job experience. Not like it's qualified as Buttigieg for transportation or anything, but he's got some experience. And they might actually not give him the position. They might choose someone else to just stick around for the tiny bit of time until Joe Biden takes over.
You can't have one day where things are possibly being done in a normal fashion, because it would make sense. Well, first off, it wouldn't make sense for William Barr to be fired with around a month left in this guy's lame duck term. But so even with that, like the normal thing, even if someone did leave, maybe this guy steps in, like you said, he's a deputy and he probably knows what's going on. But this seems to me, like a preemptive threat. Like, don't you Jeff Sessions this. Just make sure you know for this last month that we're walking around here aimlessly watching TV and tweeting about it. Let's make sure that you're on board to do the things that I need you to do to either disrupt this next administration or to make sure that I disrupt America even further with these crazy calls for election fraud.
Yeah, and let's just bear in mind how short of a time it is. That graphic's not even actually right. I don't. Business Insider said it's 8 weeks. It's less than 8 weeks. It's very soon. And so even if this guy Rosen got in, like theoretically, like he knows the DOJ, he has contacts in the DOJ clearly, so he could theoretically get something done. Who are they going to put in, and with what time to do anything? But the thing is, we do have an idea of what they want to do. Trump has apparently been discussing removing Rosen if he doesn't comply with his demands and appoint a special counsel to probe Hunter Biden's tax affairs and the president's election fraud claims. That's according to sources close to the White House. According to the report, Trump has even discussed with his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who's still his attorney, whether he can appoint special counsel investigators himself, believing it would damage the incoming Biden administration.
What do you know?
And I just want to say, like, can we not? Like, seriously, can we not with the DOJ? Can we not with the AG? Can we not with Trump? Can we not America? Can we not go through another couple of revolutions and cycles of this nonsense? Every word I just read for you is nonsense in like 6 different ways, except that it might actually happen. But aside from that, it's all BS, and I'm so sick of it. I'm so done.
Yes, you're so
stupid developments.
Do you know why? Part of the reasons why you're so sick and done with it. We've got Trump again ready to appoint another, maybe another attorney general to take over for this last month or so, to do his bidding. And previous to that, you had Jeff Sessions who did his bidding, except for just 1.5% of the time, done. Bill Barr comes in, does his bidding. He learned his lesson, except for this last moment when he spoke reality, done. So all this is happening and we're watching it and we're going, oh, this is frustrating. Oh, it's so annoying. I'm so tired of this. But Joe Biden is floating Sally Yates for his pick as attorney general. And you know what Republicans in the Senate are saying? Oh, this is a non-starter. It's not gonna fly. Somebody let this guy know we're not gonna affirm her. What's the matter with him? She's bristly. I don't like how she spoke to us in those hearings about the Russia investigation. I don't want any of this. You know who I like? I like Doug. Who's our boy from Alabama?
Jones.
Doug Jones. They like Doug Jones, and they like Merrick Garland. They like Merrick Garland for the role. The same guy that they made sure didn't get on the Supreme Court because, well, it wasn't because he was a radical, because he's not, but it was only strictly because to reject any kind of pick that Obama would have put forward. So now they're ready to invite him in with open arms as the attorney general because that's who they like. Because Doug Jones is nice. Specifically, one senator directly said, he's a nice guy, I like him. So that's in comparison to Sally Yates, who apparently is not a nice woman, and you dislike her because she doesn't take your crap. So again, this is the scenario we're dealing with. You got senators now saying, Biden, F you no matter what you do with this pick. But Trump is running around just gonna throw a new person in for the last 30 days because he needs another yes man. And what's the Senate saying? None of this stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is, like I don't want to speak for you, but feel free to agree or disagree. For me, it's like, okay, so like Trump has these like insane goons that like were, I think, made out of a pool of mud by Saruman. They're these ultimate trolls that he wants to put in office. And then Biden has these people that are being pitched by the right as the equivalent on the other side. And then I'm just sitting here as a left. It's like, I really don't like that person, and I don't really care about that person. Like, I guess I'll defend them because at least they're competent and they can do the job. But like, when do I get to be excited about somebody? Doesn't really seem like that's gonna happen. And then the thing, you nailed a lot of the reasons that it bothers me. But one extra layer is, it's that all of this nonsense. There's millions of Americans who'll be like, yes, they're gonna get Hunter Biden. They're gonna just get whoever. They're gonna pluck someone out of the DOJ to raise up, who's gonna like do a press conference that's like, Hunter Biden's corrupt, and then that person is gonna get 1 million Twitter followers. They're gonna be a celebrity on the right, and it's just the whole thing it's a dagger in the part of me that cares about reality, because so many people don't. And every day the dagger gets twisted by the news, that recognition, the new renewed recognition that people care about nonsense.
Can I give you one more?
Any other thoughts about this?
Yeah, one more wrinkle. So there's this, again, take it with not even a grain of salt, but take it for who he is. He's this guy is a Trump campaign surrogate. I remember I pitched this yesterday for our show, but I guess it wasn't the right fit. But so this guy's name is Brian Trashker. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. He went on Newsmax and he was talking about the AG and who may come in. He goes, Trump is about to enter the true wartime phase of this operation with the rigged election. He needs a wartime consigliere, and Bill Barr just is not that guy. So is this what Trump is thinking? It's like, oh, I can't have his deputy come in because he might think the same way Bill Barr is, which is not a true wartime attorney general to help me through this tough time. I don't know, but again, this is just a Trump campaign surrogate. This is who this guy is. I mean, not saying Trump said this, but I'm not sure if this is the information that's buzzing around the Trump campaign headquarters.
How is Barr not that person?
Exactly.
All he did was defend Donald Trump.
No, you know what? He's not ready for the wartime phase because he said the election's over.
I can't. No, we're done. Not today. We're done. That's it. We covered the news. You know what's going on with the AG. We've done our duty. We're moving on.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
We have been wondering, what is the next COVID aid package going to look like? And every day there's more and more reason to believe that it's gonna suck. But there are some people who are working on our behalf to make sure that it actually reflects the serious nature of the problem and the need that people have for help. And so it was good news. Last night we found out that the Progressive Caucus, led by Pramila Jayapal, apparently were pushing for no positive votes in favor of a bill that doesn't include the things that we know that we need. So she tweeted, the Progressive Caucus is united in our position. Any COVID relief package must include survival checks and enhanced unemployment assistance, the two most effective ways to put money directly in people's pockets. And by the way, I love that the terminology that I believe, at least I saw it first with her, of survival checks has caught on. She was immediately supported by other members of the caucus, including Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who said, I will not vote for a COVID package. It doesn't include survival payments and unemployment relief for the American people. It's a red line. It's also common sense. Sick and tired of Mitch McConnell and the GOP playing games with people's lives for corporate handouts. It ends here. If Congress needs to spend Christmas on the House floor, so be it. People are getting kicked out of their homes. This help should not be partisan nor controversial. It is disgusting that the Senate GOP is holding financial help hostage to gain immunity for corps to harm workers. You had this from Representative Omar, who said no direct payments, no deal. That's been our message, and we are now closer to getting cash into the hands of people who've been struggling for months. Rashida Tlaib says no survival checks and unemployment help equals no vote for me. And in just a little bit of time between when the Progressive Caucus made clear that they weren't going to support a bill that didn't include these things, and that this potentially gets to the point of the super chat we talked about earlier about, hey, they now wield even more power because the majority is slimmer. Apparently, as of this morning, talks have been moving rapidly, and they are now going to include some of those things. Although there are questions about to what extent. So we'll get into more of those details, but Jayar, so far, what do you think about the progressives pushing this way?
Well, this is what I think a lot of establishment, paid politicians are worried about when people like this came in. Because they're gonna say what American people need, want, and not stop saying it. And with platforms like Twitter, they can say it without being silenced to a degree. So the message is spreading. And then it seems like it's not, but it is, to the point where they have to now do something different, or at least try to act like they want to do something different. So the red lines have been put in place, and I'm glad that they're sticking to them. And if we're talking about negotiations, the way Joe Manchin likes to talk about negotiations, and you got to love your Republican friends and see where they're coming from to make sure we come to an agreement. There's also starting points, and this is a starting point, bro. So if you don't like $1,200 and maybe $600 every month for enhanced unemployment benefits, I don't know. Okay, fine. We'll go down to 1,000. And I think that's a bad idea. But if you're gonna give them anything, the people who actually hate Americans in this country, anything, give them very little. Because again, the number one objective as a representative in this country is to take care of the people, to do to represent the people and make sure that they can survive. People always talk about a president comes in, his number one thing is to protect the American people. This is protecting the American people with their money. So sure, I would be disappointed if you drop it down a little bit, but there's a starting point that we are not gonna come off of. And I'm glad it seems like at least that payment is gonna be a part of it, which honestly should be a continuing payment every month.
Exactly, yeah. The only finesse I would add to what you say is that's what the mission of the government should be. For a very long time, they don't seem to think that that's what it is, but 100%. And by the way, let's also not miss that. As of just like 2 days ago, the word on the streets in DC anyway. Why am I talking about it that way? Anyway, is that I'm so weird. Anyway, was that we were not going to have direct payments. We're not going to have direct payments. We're not going to have enhanced unemployment insurance. We might have a small extension of the insurance for a little bit, and then corporate immunity. And so the thing is, when I talked to Senator Sanders, he said this isn't going to be the last bill, and I hope that the senator is right, but it also could be. And so if you support a bill that doesn't actually solve the problem, but allows our elected officials to be like, we're good, we don't need to do this anymore, that's actually worse. That's worse than not doing anything at all, if that continues the pressure to get something done. And so I'm very glad that they're doing this. Now let's talk about for how much. So I'm gonna jump ahead just slightly. Senator Joe Manchin, and have you ever had a graphic that starts with his name that ends well? He's a co-author on the bipartisan package, said that leadership negotiators are closing in on an agreement that would extend direct payments of $500 to $600 to most Americans, but would deny Democratic negotiators long sought aid to state and local governments. So when I saw that, I thought, $500? It's been like 500 days since the last time you gave us any dollars. That is an insult. And by the way, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it wasn't that many months ago that Mitch McConnell was talking about something like $400, and we rightfully attacked it as utter nonsense. Joe Manchin, and what am I supposed to applaud him when he comes out and says he might get half of the measly, inadequate $1,200 that most Americans, but not a lot, got the first time? $500 weekly. Okay, we're talking. That's obviously something. That's in line with what Bernie Sanders was pushing for originally. But $500, where do you have to live for that to cover 1 month of rent? Is there a place, honestly, if you live in student housing in a rural area, maybe that'll pay for 1 month of rent? And
go ahead, John.
Yeah, it's just so now it's they've been saying, okay, no direct payments, no vote. Thank you. I'm glad, and all of you are awesome. You're the best out there. But hold on, let's add another little layer. No survival checks of at least what level? Because if it's like $100, then is it really anything at all?
Right, this is the thing. Whenever you throw around numbers like $500, $600, even the $1,200 number, what is the basis behind the number? Do you know the way people live? Do you know what their expenses are? Do you know how much revenue they've lost from folks who may have lost their jobs? Or this other part about it, there's people who have less work. Like there's people who are employed, but it's not the same level that they were employed before, or it's not the same job they were employed before. So it's not a 100% to 0% type of game here where, oh yeah, I was making $45,000 a year and now I'm down to making, it's not just to zero. Sometimes they can be down to making 20, and they're doing something because again, despite what politicians tell us, Americans are not lazy. Americans do want to work when they can without being in pain or without having to do it to sacrifice their family to do so. So there's different levels. So if someone's bills are racking up, but then their income is different, yeah, they still deserve these payments. Just keep it real. I'm not sure we feel like, oh, you don't deserve $1,200 or even $2,000 a month because you still have this meager job.
Yeah.
I'm talking, but the rental companies don't say that to you. They don't go, oh, yeah, I see that you've lost some work, so yeah, we're gonna cut rent from $2,000 this month to just $700. Let's give it a go. No, those don't change. Why is this changing?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's very like, especially when we do these stories about things like this, where it's not like you have one source that gives you all of the most up-to-date information. You're combing through so much. I can't say exactly what the timeline for some of these updates is, but it seems like after Manchin talking about 500 to 600, Senator Thune says 600 to 700. Okay, I hope that that's a development. That's because they got criticized for the 500 to 600. Well, then I would say Thune, I still hate your guts. That sucks. Let's get that back up there higher because that's obviously not enough. And as of right now, and who knows, by the time you watch this, it could change. Supposedly the bill will not include the liability shield, which again isn't a major factor nationwide in terms of the overall dollar, like the cost of the bill. But it is very important, obviously, for any of the individuals who are being so abused by the companies they work for. And also, it is just such a thumb in the eye for Mitch McConnell that's the one thing he's actually prioritized all year. One of the only things he's cared about, getting Supreme Court justices and protecting corporations who got their employees sick, and some of whom even bet on the ones that would get sick.
I've got to know if you would have to ask Senator Thune. So what's the basis for your $600 to $700 number, whatever it was, $500 to $600 number? Where did you get it from? There has to be some kind of a calculation behind this. What is it based on? And you brought up Mitch McConnell really fast. My last thought on this. He took to the Senate floor this morning and decided to go Mr. Populist when he's the guy who's been the problem from the beginning, who's been leading everyone else that's the problem from the beginning. And he said, we made a major headway toward hammering out a targeted pandemic relief package that'd be able to pass both chambers, la la la. Then he said, we committed to continuing these urgent discussions until we have an agreement, and we agreed we will not leave town until we've made law. That's what Bernie Sanders said, first of all. The American people need more help. It's that simple. Further targeted relief is now months overdue. Really? Why? Why is it months overdue? And why is it suddenly so simple? I heard before that it's not simple and that we're giving away money to people who don't deserve it. That we can't afford it. Now it's suddenly so simple and Americans need more help. You never cared about any of that. In fact, when people said that, progressives said that, you didn't say anything. In fact, you ignored them. You made sure none of these votes came up and you said we cannot afford it. Who is this guy on the Senate floor now? Don't let him try and pull this bait and switch on you because they will do it immediately. We know how this works. So every time we put pressure on guys like this and then it flips, we don't know the day that it flips, but suddenly we're congratulating him for being a human being. By the way, he's saying the right things, but we'll see where this bill comes, where this final bill looks like.
Exactly, and hopefully, if I could just add, could we find out soon? That'd be great, because this most recent bit of negotiation has been going on for literally weeks. So many people need help. Thankfully, we have some good people. Let's get them as much help as possible. Let's increase their numbers as much as possible. And we'll be talking to Nina Turner later on today, hopefully, about doing that. So with the stimulus negotiations going on once again, I thought it might not be a bad idea to remind people about how the last part of it went. So look, we've talked about the inadequacy of the direct checks that were made, but remember, a lot of that program in that first government bill was about aid to small businesses, making sure that they sort of prop up some parts of the economy. And when it was being discussed, it was talked about in a particular way, and that was that this is gonna be aid for small business. Government, man, loves talking about how it's gonna help out small business. Well, now we've had more than 6 months of the data coming in for how the money was actually divvied up. And there's a great analysis of it from the Center for Public Integrity that shows, hey, what do you know? It didn't really work out that way. So apparently most PPP loans went to businesses and communities that already had more access to resources. Loans didn't reach a greater share of businesses in the lowest income communities, where median household income is about $40,000 or less, and recessions hit the hardest. Instead, the numbers fell just shy of their share of small employers in the US. Rural areas did only slightly better. The PPP reached them in proportion to their share of small employers. So the idea was supposed to be that they were going to find areas that desperately needed help. They were gonna find smaller businesses that desperately needed help, and the bulk of the funding was going to go to them. But no, sort of best case scenario, these businesses did about as well as you would expect based on their share of the population. And when you break it down by the median household income, there appears to have been virtually no benefit given in the distribution of the funds to areas that needed the aid most. So this is gonna be the first of several studies we talk about on the show today that are hardly shocking to people who are familiar with American politics. But it's important that we know this wasn't just a hypothesis when the money was originally being allocated. The belief that it would go to people who didn't necessarily need it as much. The data is actually showing that now.
These are the parts of the stories that you generally don't get, which is again obviously why we're doing it, because you'll hear as recently as Sunday on Fox News Sunday, Joe Manchin talking about how the compromise deal will take care of everything. And of course, you have to bring up small businesses like every other Republican does, just like Joe Manchin, who was a wannabe Republican. You just keep saying, we're here to help small businesses. Small businesses need our assistance. Can you believe small businesses? Hey, you know, sometimes you only have like 10 employees. We need to help small businesses. And if you say it over and over and over again, and you get these people who think you're a supporter of small businesses, then this part happens. The secondary reality part of the distribution of the funds happen, or the people who cut line, as we saw from the first round. We just stop talking about it and go back to small businesses, small businesses, small businesses. If you hear them talk about small businesses, look into what they're actually doing, because there's a pretty good chance they're screwing over small businesses for the benefit of their buddies who gave them money to make sure that they're in the front of the line.
Yeah, and so I want to jump in a little bit more information, including that this isn't just a thing that when you break it down by like median income, like purely, you break it down along other demographic trends. You see also some of the stated goals of the program, the PPP program, were not actually followed. So the SBA did not ask applicants for their demographic information, but a May survey by Color of Change suggested that Black and Hispanic business owners were often denied the help, and many feared that their firms would not last the year. I remember we talked about that at the time, that they were denied at a higher rate than white-owned businesses. More information now breaking down into particular lenders. So Bank of America, which was the top PPP lender by number of loans that were given, sent half to the nation's highest income zip codes, which well above those areas' shares of small employers, oddly enough. Just 8% of its loans went to the lowest income communities, well below their share. Wells Fargo, which was the fourth largest lender by number of loans, sent 8% too to the lowest income zip codes. Did they have like a phone call that like they figured out that's what they're gonna do? They sent 2% to rural areas. Yeah. Anyway, and look, you can go and you can get the information. It's available at Center for Public Integrity. They also found that based on the size of the firm, the percentage of requests that were actually approved before the funds ran out was very different based on your size. For those who were very large corporations who were asking, by the way, for more money, the number that were processed was much higher. Smaller companies that were literally asking for far less money had a much lower chance of actually even getting a confirmation or denial during the program. And so what this leaves us, especially after the funds run out, is God only knows how many of those businesses did end up losing out. And in no small part due to the fact that the money ran out, and we can see they gave a bunch of it to people that didn't need it. And by the way, there's been some good coverage of things like, was it who's the big mega church guy who his church got some loans?
I don't really. For some reason, when I start with the
Oscorp, I think it is.
No, because
usually Spider-Man.
It's different.
Is it Osborne? Anyway, but yeah, like I saw news coverage of that, which is totally true, and that money shouldn't have gone there. And there was like Jared Kushner and Trump's family and everything, and certainly those are egregious. But while this is less sexy, this is where the bulk of them, like you can see that the bulk of the money was given in incredibly inequitable ways. Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So that
So
and
he's
it's
going
good
crazy.
that was news. I'm glad that people are focusing on that. But it wasn't a thing of just a couple of abuses. This was whether we can prove yet that it was by design, and for that we would really need, like the communications of the people who were divvying up the money. And a lot of it isn't just the government; it's also these banks. Like you can see it in the numbers. So
I can only speculate how the breakdown and distribution of this works, but as you point out, these lower income zip codes, we know there's geographical divisions among race lines and income lines. So it's just kind of natural. It's why the way the nation is so segregated based on those types of things. It's a natural way to disenfranchise people from anything from voting to stuff like this. So you can support your small businesses, but the small businesses in certain communities, which overall certain communities we don't care about when it comes to anything from schools to what is it they call food deserts? When there's actually no good actual grocery stores available for certain folks in certain communities. All those things just are all encompassing with things like this. So it can be inaccurate to say they plan specifically, Bank of America and all them plan specifically, not just make sure money goes to certain folks. But if you're already in this group or in this section of the country that's ignored, you're automatically going to be ignored when something like this happens with it. You've been ignored on 25 other things that the government usually helps more affluent communities with. So it goes with the territory. It's why Black and Latino folks, especially women, end up getting when they even go for healthcare, when they go to hospitals and doctor care, they don't pay attention to what they need, their pain. They think that they're exaggerating it. All those things are naturally built into the system. So you can't say, oh yeah, they saw a black lady come and therefore they started discriminating against her. They kind of did because it just goes with the flow. It's why it's a systemic problem and not just an individual. Each person is choosing to do it in the time that happens.
Yeah, and the damage doesn't, just go away after the pandemic. Like if some areas that desperately needed the help to be propped up while things were difficult went under, and then people lost their jobs as a result of that. Those jobs don't suddenly just come back necessarily after the pandemic, and so now you had areas that were already worse off based on median income that are going to have worse outcomes after the pandemic. And again, this is why, like we were talking earlier, we were joking about the fact that our belief of what the government's mission is supposed to be. Obviously, that isn't how they actually see themselves. You could say similar things about what the mission of banks should be, and instead you had money being given that largely was going to people who probably needed it far less.
Yeah.
Anyway, Funky Pug in Twitch says the dirt poor will eat the filthy rich, quoting Richard Ojeda. I hadn't heard that. It's nasty. Anyway, let's jump to a little bit of news. I'm gonna file under Schadenfreude. Okay. So we know that the government is loving their holiday parties, and perhaps the most egregious is one that we've been anticipating for a couple of weeks. Jayar laughs as soon as Mike Pompeo's face shows up. Is Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, who was planning a 900-person holiday party during the worst part of the worst pandemic of our lives. So how is that actually going? Well, to give you an idea of how fun and awesome and well attended of an event it was planned to be, Pompeo ended up not going. His name was on the invitation, he was scheduled to speak, but he canceled his speech and tapped a substitute speaker, according to 2 officials. Now here's the thing, the 900 figure was how many people he was inviting. He wanted to have those 900 people. 70 people RSVP'd for the event as of Monday night, and even fewer actually showed up, which sort of makes sense considering how bad the pandemic is. Now here's the thing, that does still leave some people, not 900 and not Mike Pompeo, which is a great way to host a Mike Pompeo 900-person party. The State Department had said that masks would be required for attendance, and it would enforce social distancing guidelines for those 70 people who showed up. Now, one would imagine it's much easier to socially distance at a party where fewer than 1 in 10 people actually show up. But no, in photos that have come out, and we can jump ahead to one of these photos, while Santa might be wearing a mask, most of the people don't appear to be. And so maybe some of them will be saved from COVID exposure by the fact that so many people had no interest in going to Mike Pompeo's party. But if there were people who were infected there, they are freely spreading it. And why is there Santa B-roll? That thing. Anyway, Jayar, I know you've been talking about this Pompeo party. What do you think about the way it turned out?
I don't know, man. I guess I'm a bitter, petty person, and I'll accept it. This made me smile this morning. The Grinch got a hold of Mike Pompeo's Christmas party, and he didn't grow a heart 10 times bigger and make sure he returned the gifts. No, he kept that party and he put it in his basement, and it's where it stays. No, you mentioned 70 people showed up. No, 70 people RSVP'd. Even fewer than that actually showed up.
That's true. Yes, 70. Even 70 RSVP'd. No,
I want to make sure we get every aspect of the pathetic nature of this party. Again, this party that people told him weeks ago, hey, this is really irresponsible for you to throw, Mike. And he goes, I don't care. You know, it's Christmas. Stop. Well, I'm not sure what he said, but this is the things that if you were a spokesperson from it, I could work from it easily and say this. You guys want to subvert Christmas. How come you hate Christians? You know, the normal things you go through down the line of litany of things. Anyway, people realize I don't want to die. Why would I show up? And in fact, Mike Pompeo didn't show up because he has to quarantine because he's been around someone who tested positive.
Yeah.
Jesus. And one
Spoiler
last
alert there.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
So
I'm sorry.
So that's amazing. Like, somebody in Twitch mentioned when you're not popular enough to be a super spreader. Hey, I remember inviting people and to parties. I'm not sure. Actually, I never really tried. But if I had, they wouldn't have. So I get it. But think about what happened. One of two things happened, and neither is good for Mike Pompeo. Either Mike Pompeo canceled his appearance because he had just found out that he had been infected, which should be a reminder to him, or exposed potentially. We don't know that he's actually infected, but he's quarantining. And that should have been a reminder to him that these are dangerous times, as if anybody needs one, but these are dunces. So, and then he should have canceled the party to protect other people, but he didn't do that. Or he canceled before he found out that he had been exposed and just decided the risk was too great, but still let other people go and potentially get infected. Neither of those is good. Fundamentally irresponsible, playing fast and loose with people's lives. You know, hopefully he hasn't been infected because we don't want anyone to be infected, but like he's one of the last ones who hasn't had it at this point. And he's still encouraging effectively other people to get it. Like that, you know, sweet old man who's playing Santa might have been exposed to COVID thanks to Mike Pompeo refusing to listen to the scientists.
Yeah, for some reason the pathetic looking Santa just does it for me, because as many people who have watched long enough know, I have a lifelong crusade against the existence and lies of a Santa Claus. Just saying. Anyways,
why is that?
Against the Santa Claus thing. It's the dumbest idea. It's stupid to continue to lie to your children and tell them be good all year so that this stranger can come in your house and give you things. After we tell them for the rest of the year, hey, don't let strangers give you things. And definitely if someone starts beating on the door, don't open it and let them in. Anyways, just because you're not good enough to discipline your children to make sure that they stay in line without scaring them into not getting gifts at the end of the year. Anyway, that's a whole different crusade that I have. But the fun thing about this that I was noticed in this Washington Post article about this failed party. It says one spouse of a diplomat said she declined the invitation because her husband was serving abroad, and if she had attended and gotten sick, no one would have been able to take care of their children. Now that seems like a basic reason, right? But that's quoted in an article about this diplomat's wife, because she's important enough, and so are their children. This entire year, most of this entire year, we've been talking about sending people back to work in these random small time jobs because we have to get the economy going. But things like this, we can quote her saying she's not gonna show up because if she dies, who's gonna take care of the kids? But when you have random people making minimum wage, and we're like, who cares if they get sick and die? Well, who cares if they have kids that who knows who's gonna take care of those kids afterwards? We gotta get the economy going again. But you have this, I guess, recognition of their life and their situation and their kids and what could happen if they get COVID. Suddenly COVID is dangerous and worthy of being warned about. and avoided when it's these types of folks.
Exactly. Yeah. The only hope, and we've known this for a long time across a lot of different topics, for them to actually care about something is for it to hit incredibly close to home. That's the only thing that can get some of these conservatives to accept the reality of something. And not even necessarily then. And Trump had COVID and he doesn't take it seriously. For those of you who are hoping for Ambassador to China Pete Buttigieg, sorry, I've got bad news for you. It's not gonna happen because Biden has tapped him to be the head of the Department of Transportation. And also Jennifer Granholm for energy, which is, I guess, better news. But Pete Buttigieg will be the Secretary of Transportation, with Joe Biden tweeting, Mayor Pete Buttigieg is a leader, patriot, and problem solver. He speaks to the best of who we are as a nation. I am nominating him for Secretary of Transportation because he's equipped to take on the challenges at the intersection of jobs, infrastructure, equity, and climate. Oh, no, that's a good argument. So how is he equipped to do that? Like, no disrespect to him. I'm sure he's very smart. Everyone says he's very smart. He speaks a lot of languages. And the fact that he rose as fast as he did from just a small town mayor to being taken very seriously and like sort of tying in Iowa is great. I'm gonna put, it's always, to me, I said like a week ago, it feels like the TRL thing. It feels like we were told someone we were supposed to like they plucked this guy. And then donors showered him with money all of a sudden. These incredibly wealthy donors showered him with money. And then all of a sudden he's on the national stage and he's on magazine covers. So who set that up? Was it organic? Is it like in 2016 or 2015 actually, Bernie became a thing that people took seriously after months and months of doing ever increasingly large meetups and rallies and all of that. And he was also known for decades in government, but he had to do it organically. Buttigieg was all of a sudden was a top tier candidate. When nobody knew who he was, that's the TRL thing. If you're too young, you won't get what I'm saying. But all of a sudden, somebody's the #1 pick. How did anyone know to pick them? I don't know. Anyway, so we've got more on this, Jayar, but he's apparently going to be Secretary of Transportation. What do you think?
I think you guys are gonna be upset with me, but it's not that I'm in support of this. I'm just not surprised. Absolutely not surprised. In fact, expected it to the point where I'm like, okay, I almost wouldn't have mentioned it. I saw the headlines, I read some of the stories, and I was like, oh, so transportation is the one that he got. That's really the biggest news, is which one would he get? And then after that, then I looked up and said, what exactly is the head of the Department of Transportation have to be responsible for? Because you know why I had to look it up? Because I don't have generally follow what the head of the Department of Transportation is doing on a day-to-day basis, and maybe that's a shortcoming of mine, that I don't know how to follow the Department of Transportation head to realize if Pete Buttigieg is qualified for it. And of course there's road projects, infrastructure, safety measures, all those things. Which again, I don't know if the head of the Department of Transportation is an expert on these things ever. There's people who work for the Department of Transportation as career people, and they know how to run it. And there's a guy in the head of it who probably gets taught up to a degree, which he will. And then by year 2, he'll be competent because other people are doing a lot of the work, which is, I think, a lot of the ways politics works in cabinet positions. There's a huge team of people that does the work. And there's a guy in the front of it who you would hope knows more than everyone else who leads it. But they're like, well, we'll just assist him into it. Not yet, look, not at all. They already said it before. We talked about this before. He's gonna learn on the job.
Okay, then we can pick anybody. It could literally anybody. Could have been Beto. It could have been no, but that I don't actually buy that. I think that you were at least partly right, and that makes me at least a little bit hopeful that he'll at least be able to stop it from like falling off a cliff, the entire department, which by the way has 55,000 people working at it. This is not a small department.
Right.
To put it in perspective, it is more than half the size of the town he was a mayor of. He's gonna be directly in charge of all of those people. I don't know, it just doesn't, I just don't like again, to me, okay, he's smart, he can learn on the job. Thousands, millions of people could learn on the job. They're still picking him to do it. And it is still fundamentally not taking the person who is heading this up all that seriously. I don't think. I just don't think so.
It's true. It's purely political for what he did. It's fair for what he did. Yeah, he came in. Yeah. He was the palatable guy. He was the one that everyone, they said, oh my God, there's an openly gay man running for president, and everyone hasn't completely sent him out of the building strictly because of that ridiculous reason that many Republicans would have sent him out of the room. So there's an acceptance of it. And said, oh my God, the American people are okay with a gay man running something. Trust me, you guys. Just
sure, and I'm glad. Like,
yeah.
So yes, so he is going to be the first openly LGBTQ person to hold a cabinet level position for Biden or for anyone, and that is a good thing. But at the same time, I can point out that this is a purely political thing that he's being given for what he did during the primary that has nothing to do with any of his experience. And I don't care how many tweets Nancy Pelosi or anybody sends out about the fact that he was a mayor and they had buses, so hey, it makes sense. No, that has nothing to do with any of this. They were gonna come up with some BS explanation for anything. We were talking about the BS explanations for why he would be the ambassador to China. If you can go from thinking that's what he should do this last week to now he should do the Secretary of Transportation, you're not being serious about either of those things. They're each important jobs that require different experiences.
I agree. No, I want to very much clarify. It's not because I think they should have selected him for any of these positions. It's just I'm not surprised because I don't think this is the first time political appointments happen. There's a reason why the term exists.
I know.
Political appointments.
I get it. You're not wrong, and maybe I'm focusing too much on this particular one. This seems to me to be the most nakedly partisan so far from Biden. There's other ones that I have more of an issue with ideologically. Just this one is the most like it's like, hey, let's just find what we can give him.
And it's given his voters. They're like almost their say in it. You know how progressives want some progressives in the cabinet so we can have a voice there. So there's tons of voters that liked him and they're like, okay, let's go ahead and appease them and give him something. And they're gonna be happy about it. Keep it real.
Well, one of the few, for me, like one of the few things that's making me feel a little bit better about it is this is designed to like elevate him for his next presidential run.
Absolutely, 100%.
No, that's totally what it's for. I just think that again, these are people who don't get anything. Nobody cares. That's not what people are gonna choose based on. And it doesn't mean that it won't be cited as a reason they should be president. The same like infatuated magazine covers that he got the last time, he'll get them the next time and he'll be on The View and they will cite that as one of the things that's awesome about him. But they would love him just as much as if it wasn't there. So I don't actually care about that.
Yeah.
And the fact, by the way, that was pointed out by a journalist that one of his favorite board games is Ticket to Ride, which many people sent to me, by the way, because they know I love board games, does not make me feel better about him being Secretary of Transportation. You got to play the 18xx games or nothing. That's a serious train simulation. Ticket to Ride, that's gateway, man. That ain't gonna prepare you to run.
Wait, so you are familiar with that? You familiar with that random ass game that they just said?
Well, Ticket to Ride has sold more than like 10 million copies. It's hardly a random ass game. I've played Ticket to Ride and Ticket to Ride Europe. I have Ticket to Ride India. Actually, it's very fun. Great series of games. Get it for your family. Doesn't actually get you ready. Like I've played Terraforming Mars. They're not gonna put me in charge of Space Force. That's not how that works.
Well, if you start running for president,
I play Pandemic Legacy. I ain't gonna head the CDC.
Don't sell yourself short, John. Don't sell yourself short. You're only like 35 years old. You'll make it.
Let's go with 35. Anyway, really fast, just because I saw comments on Twitch about this. So some people were asking, wait, do you mean TRL with Carson Daly? And other people are like, what's that? Yes, I do. And basically what it was like the big thing in music for a while on MTV, which was people would call and vote on their favorite videos. And then he would do the top 10 and they'd bring the stars in and they'd sing and everything. Except that that's obviously not actually how it worked, because as I'm saying here, somebody would be the #1 video that nobody had heard about before that week. They weren't voted in that position. The record company paid TRL and they gave them the #1 and they invented stars. That's what they do. They take people that they want to be famous. They do a PR campaign. They put them on TRL and all of a sudden everybody loves them because they're in front of your face. It ain't organic. And that ain't just in music. That also happens in politics, by the way, and a lot of other things.
12-year-old John was boycotting. He was boycotting TRL back in the day when it was out. He was like,
I watched it.
It's like, damn this Carson.
When is Tom Green gonna get #1? That's a throwback. Anyway, yeah, that's actually what I believe about. That's the TRL theory. So you take this to the bank, and you won't get anything for it. Okay, really fast. Joe Biden is also still apparently thinking possibly about bringing a Republican into his cabinet. He's according to Axios, they're thinking possibly about someone like Meg Whitman for Commerce Secretary as a way to signal to red state Americans that he understands their concerns and plans to address them. Okay, so now the good thing is that further into the article, they say that some of his confidants believe that there's no long-term benefit. And I would say even in that very specific thing that they said, like MAGA heads are not like, I don't like Biden, he's a plant of the Communist Party, but if he picks Meg Whitman for commerce, suddenly I'll be paying attention. That's, I don't think that's how literally a single voter anywhere around the world actually thinks.
No, not at all. Agreed, John.
But he is considering it. Do you think, well, what do you think at this point? So far, we've, I guess, been lucky. We've only gotten sort of centrist conservative Dems. We haven't necessarily gotten the people that we want in most of these positions, but so far there hasn't been like a Kasich or anything like that.
Yeah, so far. Do you expect that though? Because I don't know now. Because you think it would have happened early because he's trying to pacify the folks that are mad about the results of the election, all that stuff. So if he does it later, again, this is, it's the one thing people said about Joe Biden and his decades in politics is it's a routine in any job you've had, from McDonald's to being president, I think, or even definitely being a senator. It's a routine you go through. So, we got to start appointing people. Let's do what we've always done. Yeah, we'll appoint the guy who helped me here, and we'll appoint this other guy who got popular here because it's going to help me on a broader scale. You have to promote yourself and present yourself as the most roundabout person. So he's talking about this Republican that he's going to put on because he wants to garner more support. Who knows if he really will do it? But it could have just been a media tour at that point. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that there is still very much a chance because it is such a core part of who Biden is politically, is the desire to bring in a Republican to show that he can reach across the aisle or whatever. And I think that in the Axios article, they're talking about the possibility of somebody for commerce, bringing in some CEO or something like that. I think that there's a good chance of that, both because of who Biden is, and also I feel like the vast majority of people that any Democrat would consider for commerce might or might not technically be Republicans, but are probably going to be pretty in line with the way Republicans think about business. So I think that there's a good chance of that. We'll have to see. I agree with his confidants who say that they say aside from short-term media benefit, that there's no long-term benefit. I would go a step further and say CNN will be like, hey, the era of bipartisanship, you'll get like 10 minutes of that. You're not going to get even short-term media coverage from the right that's positive. That's just not going to happen. The only people that they think that Mitch McConnell's a rhino at this point. Who would Biden be able to pick for his cabinet that they wouldn't consider more proof that the Republican Party is in bed with the Democrats and they both need to burn? I can't think of anyone, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's again, the fact that Joe Biden and many Democrats always feel like they have to be the one to unite folks around folks that have no interest in uniting anywhere near you. It's you're spinning your wheels. Like you're offering olive branches to people who've got like garden shears. They're cutting them. They don't care. And eventually they're gonna cut it long enough and it's gonna get to your hand, bro. And they don't care. They're not here to unite with you. So when Donald Trump came in, I said this many times. How many people interviewed him and said, so we saw your inauguration speech when you said I alone can do this and run this country and take care of you. No one else can do it but me. And then during this 4 years, he talks about how blue states, who cares if they weren't involved in this country? Like there's so much division. Everyone knows the stories of the division of Donald Trump. And immediately before he's even literally out of office, the next guy has to come in and talk about how he's going to unite these people who've got guns and knives and fire in the streets over the last weekend. What are the words somebody's gonna say to unite them?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing. That's a great point. And what did Trump do? I mean, you would like there was very little pressure for the guy who lost the popular vote to reach out to the other side, the side that was larger than his side. Biden won in a landslide, according to Trump, and by like far more than 7 million votes. But the expectation will be that when it comes to cabinet positions, theoretically, when you're picking judges, better not pick any crazy libs or anything like that. Yeah. And in terms of legislation, you're gonna have to bring some Republicans on board. Like the Democrats don't get to win. Maybe they'll win, maybe against all odds they'll win, but they don't get to win, not fundamentally. They don't get to be winners in politics. And they also coincidentally don't act like it.
Yeah, you have to be sorry for winning. It's like, after you win a game in sports, you have to be like, oh, the other team played well. When you know what they were actually saying on the court, the basketball court in this particular instance, they were cussing each other out, talking about each other's families, saying and just demeaning each other. And then when you actually win, you have to go to the media and say, yeah, I respect the other team. No, you didn't. You didn't respect the other team for that whole time you were playing because you're competing. Like, why do you have to give that BS reason? It's disingenuous, and sadly, enough Americans believe that it's real.
Yeah. Well, Jayar, thank you for joining us for this very weird day in the news. Appreciate you being here. Maybe by next Wednesday we'll have some other cabinet picks. Maybe we'll know about the Republican at that point, whether it happened or not. We are getting some questions about seeing Sprocket, if that is possible. I don't know if he's around.
For a second. He jumped off the couch earlier. I saw. Yeah, it was in the middle of the show. He totally did that. But yeah, I think
I will ask again. I really would like to take care of it for a couple of days.
Oh yeah,
I can set that up this time. I keep forgetting after the show, but feel free to text me or something. I can pick them up.
The random nature of the show, I don't want to apologize for. I just want to acknowledge maybe I spent a little too much time on Santa. It's a little bit.
Maybe I talked about TRL a little bit too much. Anyway. That's the pandemic TDR. It's amazing that there's this much left of it at this point. But anyway, thank you, Jayar. Have a good one.
Appreciate it. Hey, Nina Turner's gonna be awesome, you guys. Every time she speaks, I can't help but to get fired up. Can't wait to see it.
She is. Yeah. Okay, man. See you in a little bit.
See you.
I honestly could not be more excited than I am right now to welcome to the show once again our guest, the host of the Hello Somebody podcast, former Ohio State Senator and newly announced congressional candidate for Ohio's 11th district. Nina Turner, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, John. Always great to join you.
Great to have you here. Thank you for taking time out in what's got to be an insane week. So we were waiting. Once word had come that Representative Fudge might be being elevated into the Biden administration, everyone is very excited for the possibility that you might be running. So tell me a little bit about the process of coming to that decision. Running for Congress is a big thing. What was that process like?
It really is. I mean, the outpouring from the grassroots was enormous. Obviously, I must pause to congratulate my Congresswoman Marcia Fudge on the nomination. She will serve in HUD well. And in terms of the seat, John, I've just been. This moment really gnawed on my soul and my spirit. The needs of the people in this district are great, as are the needs in the nation. And as you know, many people know, I've had the pleasure and the privilege to travel all over this country and talk to people from different walks of life. The suffering is real even before the pandemic hit. And everywhere that I went, I took the people of the 11th congressional district, my home city, Cleveland, Ohio, with me every step of the way. And what is happening in this district and what is happening in other parts of the country in terms of the suffering of people, the poor, the working poor, and the very middle class. And so it cries out for somebody to come and then be that champion of the people. And that is why I am running. I really feel like it's a culmination of all the other great work that I've been able to do, from being a Cleveland City Council woman, as I think many of your viewers kind of know my history, but it bears repeating, to being an Ohio State Senator, the Democratic nominee in 2014 for Secretary of State in the great state of Ohio, fighting against one of the worst secretaries of state, Republican secretaries of states in the country. I worked at the Cleveland Municipal School District as the Director of Government Affairs. I mean, you name it, I have done it. And to bring that depth of experience, coupled with what I've been able to do, from leading our revolution to being part of the Bernie Sanders revolution in 2016 and one of the national co-chairs in 2020, I believe that I can leverage all of that for my constituents in the 11th congressional district.
I obviously couldn't agree more. And I was doing a little bit of research about the district, and I actually hadn't known it is one of the most Democratic districts in the country, like top 40 or something like that. So it certainly seems like they deserve to have a progressive representing it. And I know we're still obviously in the early days. A few people have already announced that they're going to be running as well. Do you expect that this is going to be a pretty packed field, or is it going to be around 2, 3, 4 major candidates, do you think?
I think there'll be about 8 people who run, and that's fine. The more the merrier. I certainly do not hail from the school of thought that seeks to stop people from running. This is a representative democracy, and people have a right to run for office. So I'm looking forward to the having the dialogue, if you will, with others and with this community about what that future looks like.
So, I'm obviously very familiar, with you, your politics, your political advocacy. A lot of our audience is as well. But for people, especially people who might be watching this that are in the 11th and might not be as familiar with you, what is your platform going to focus around for this run?
Definitely the $15 an hour minimum wage, to double that minimum wage. In Ohio, is $8 and some change. We want to double that, or almost double that, because it has some change. That is very important. The numbers of people who have lost their jobs, or people who are underemployed or unemployed right now, it continues to grow, as you know, John, because of the pandemic has just made bad situations worse. It is vitally important that we, the people, and through their representatives, ensure that people are making a living wage so that they can live a good life. I am just tired of poor people and the working poor and barely middle class having to scrape by every single day by this government on the federal level, and also this happens on the state level as well. Give money hand over fist to the wealthiest, most connected people in this nation. It is time to make sure that we give the workaday people of this nation, to quote a friend of mine, some relief. So $15 an hour minimum wage. I do understand the impact that COVID is having, not just on individuals from a health standpoint. Universal health care is a must, but also small businesses as well. And so I will be the champion for both individuals and also businesses. And education, no doubt, I am a first generation college graduate. I certainly understand the power of education. One of the things that attracted me to Senator Sanders' platform when I joined him in 2016 was the whole notion of free college for all. I do believe that this nation needs a paradigm shift, pre-K to college, or pre-K, the technical training, vocational training. We should make the requisite investment to ensure that the citizens of this nation get the type of 21st century education that they need and that they deserve to be competitive. And again, I'm gonna focus in, John, on living a good life. Far too often, many people in this country are in survival mode, and they tend to be that way all of their life. And that's no way to live. People should be able to thrive, and that's what I aim to stand up for and to continue to fight for.
I think right now we have like the perfect example of what you're talking about, how people have been forced in this survival mode. Our federal government doesn't do much these days. The one thing they're sort of talking a little bit about is a possible second COVID aid bill. And seemingly the vast majority of our elected representatives are perfectly fine with doing nothing. They've spent the last 6 months doing absolutely nothing vis-a-vis the American people. But we do have some in the Progressive Caucus is pushing for direct survival payments, enhanced unemployment, payments and things like that. Bernie Sanders has been a great advocate in that area. If you weren't candidate Turner today, if you were in Congress today, what would you see your role in these negotiations being? What would you be pushing for?
Well, I would be right there with my progressive sisters and brothers, not only sounding the alarm, but also making the demand. And although COVID is rapid, no doubt about that, and people cannot necessarily gather in a 3D fashion as we were accustomed to before COVID, John, we need the people to rise up and not accept the status quo. You are absolutely right, not since March. And it is immoral from the background that I come from. It is absolutely immoral that has taken this Congress and this president this long to basically do nothing while people are being evicted, while people have lost their health care, while people don't know where their next meal is gonna come from. It is immoral. And so I would be there being one of the biggest champions and also preparing for the incoming administration, because there is something that the Democratic Party, imagine this, John, the Democratic Party is gonna get the chance. Go Georgia. Is going to get the chance. You just imagine that. This is a beautiful thing, that the Democratic Party will get the chance if we are able to win Georgia, to control both houses of the Congress and the presidency, and be presented with the awesome opportunity to truly serve the people and provide the type of relief that they deserve. I'm looking forward to that.
That is a great opportunity, and I hope that people around the country are taking those races as seriously as you are. We certainly are here at TYT. I wanted to mention, if people haven't already seen, that it's only been like 24 hours since you announced, but a number of prominent names have voiced support for you, including organizations like Our Revolution, but also Congresspeople like Ro Khanna. You have Keith Ellison. Cori Bush, Danny Glover, Killer Mike, like these big names that are very respected, on the left.
I can't leave out Charlemagne the God, and also DFA, Democracy for America. Sorry for cutting you off, John. Was one of the first organizations to get out there and say she runs, we are with her. And so I am so grateful. Roots Actions, Progressive Democrats of America, so grateful for those organizations standing right by my side as I seek to bring a progressive vision and agenda from the 11th Congressional District of Ohio to DC.
After listing all of those names, sorry, what was that?
I feel like you started this in trouble because I got Susan Sarandon, Mayor Carmen Cruz, the Minister of Ice Cream himself, Ben Cohen. As you know, the four of us served as national co-chairs for Senator Bernie Sanders. I am leaving out a lot of people, John. You're gonna get me in trouble.
No, that's awesome. Well, there'll be time. Hopefully, we'll talk more in the future. But after all of those big names, very well respected names, it's going to seem sort of silly in comparison. But I'm also endorsing you if it counts for anything. Definitely endorsing you for what that's worth.
It's worth a lot, John. Before we go, because this race is local, I am so happy for the national support, but I have got to just get a few of my local people in there. Senator Kenny Yuko, who now holds the Senate seat that I held, has endorsed me, and I am so grateful. He's also the minority leader in the Senate. My minority leader when I served in the Ohio Senate, Senator Eric Kearney. We have people like Senator Sandra Williams, who is from the Cleveland area, Councilwoman Tara Mosley Samples. My pastor, goes without saying, Pastor Kyle Early. I have many members of the faith-based community, both in Cleveland and also Summit County. This district covers Cuyahoga County, portions of Cuyahoga County, and portions of Summit County too. Mayor Trevor Elkins. So again, I'm gonna get in trouble on that one too. But I just want people to know, John, because you know what they're gonna try to say. It's all national. What I bring to bear that no other candidate who will get in this race can is that national push that will help, that national cachet that will help lift the agenda here in the 11th Congressional District. So I am proud of both my local support that continues to grow and also my national support that continues to grow.
Yeah, they can try that, and I'm sure that they can, but you've served locally, you've served in the state government. Like we can go through the credentials. That is gonna be a hard case to make stick if that's what they wanna say. But finally, so if people are in the area, obviously I want them to know, how they can help you out. But for our audience who might be, around the country, around the world, do we have an idea of exactly what the timeline is for this? And what are some of the best ways that people who are interested in possibly getting involved can help you out?
Well, they can certainly go to ninaturner.com, go there. They can go there to sign up to volunteer, sign up to donate. Every dollar counts, $3, $11, $20. Whatever you can give. And then also if you are able to volunteer your time and your talent, that time, talent, and treasure, all three of those things, beautiful. You can go to the website, ninaturner.com, and sign up. If you just want to donate, which is a beautiful thing, you can go to ninaturner.com/hello. That will help us out tremendously because we do need money for the mission. That, being a part of that team to help get me elected, I would very much appreciate if people did that. We need you.
Awesome. Well, always glad to have you on, and especially now you're probably busier than ever, but we appreciate you making time for us. Future Congresswoman Nina Turner, thank you for joining us on the Damage Report.
Thank you, John, so much. Thank you to your viewers, and thank you so much for your endorsement.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.